Hey guys, it's your girl Fuzz and welcome back to another Stardew Valley video. You asked for it and here it is. Here are some layout suggestions that I can suggest for the forest farm and the Riverland farm in one video. Let's get into it. So for today's 2-for-1 special video, we're going to start with the forest farm. I just want to say if you have chosen this farm, I am praying for you. This farm looked fun to design, but I had so many mishaps on the way, so I'm going to show you how I designed it, where the mishaps happened, and where I decided to fix them. I got rid of everything and then went to bed to start the next day. I chose crystal flooring for this farm as I wanted something different to stand out. I think it'll suit the farm well. I first designed the flooring to take up 2 spaces as I connected the exits near the farmhouse. Then I decided a 3rd space might bring out the farm a little bit more. I chose the west side of my farm for crops, but had some trouble trying to lay everything out. I chose a single floor spacing between each sprinkler to be a little fancy. I then connected this north space above the pond to the east side of the farm, which I then also chose to grow my crops. A space was left for fencing to separate my areas. I wanted to do the same thing here by placing a flooring space in between each sprinkler. This was the end result for the east side with 4 radium sprinklers and 2 quality sprinklers. I boxed off the pond in the middle of the farm as I felt like it was a bit of a distraction. I tried to keep as much floor space as possible whilst keeping the fences even with each other on each side. Then I boxed off this little pond as well, leaving a space either side for some grass and some trees and keeping the fences in line with the other fences. I made a floor section between the pond here and built a flower and bee house farming area. I then built my coop and barn in this section as I believe they fit perfectly. This southwest section of the farm was kept for tapped trees. Although tree stumps here do respawn for hardwood, I decided to remove them to place seeds for the tapped trees. I fenced this off, placed the seeds, and placed tree fertilizers on top. This southeast section took me a while to choose a design. Since this pond was here, I left it as a random chilling area as the farm seemed pretty set up so far. I placed down heaps of trees and placed some flooring to connect the farm. I revisited the west side of my farm and realized that there were a lot of crops that weren't able to be placed down. So instead, I decided to remove the 4 pieces that separated the sprinklers and brought the sprinklers together. It wasn't what I wanted at the end, but it was all I could do with this layout, which is why I pray to those that chose this farm. This wasn't the only area that was affected. The east side of the farm also had this problem too. So I removed the 4 pieces that split up the sprinklers and kept all the crops together instead to have this layout here. Once the trees on the southeast grew, I placed cobblestone floor pieces around them to stop random seeds from falling and growing more trees. I did the same thing to the tapped trees. I removed any tree stumps and replaced all the floors with cobblestone floor pieces, and this was the result. Then comes the sheds. I wanted to place 2 besides my farmhouse and 2 over to the far west side of the farm. This was the 2nd shed area to the west of my farm with some floor pieces, and I thought it looked kind of fancy. I came to a total of 327 crops in total to harvest with this setup. After completing the community center and gaining access to the wizard's book at his tower, I placed a Genemo hut in the middle of the west crop farm. That way I can pick up the crops on the east side whilst the Genemos pick up what they could on the west side. I placed down all the obelisks between my crops here, placing them in a pattern way so I can tell them apart. After doing some finishing touch-ups, here is the end result. I have my crop farm to the east side with some lightning rods off to the side. I have this relaxing southeast area to chill off. I have the flowers and bee houses chilling over here. I've got the coop and the barn over here. I would have gated off the animals, but the animals seem to enjoy themselves just standing here. I have the tapped trees to the southwest of my farm. I then also have the crops to the west of my farm over here. I have the sheds to the far west side of my farm over here. I added some more flooring to pump it out a little more. I have some more flowers by my awesome obelisks. And of course I have a golden clock in front of my shed. And this was my idea for the forest farm. I'll link a photo of the layout for the farm down in the description. Next up, we got the Riverland Farm. So the same thing with this farm over here. On day 1, I decided to clear out the farm and sleep for the next day. I decided to go with wood flooring for this farm. I had to design this farm by thinking about building placements and filling the gaps with flooring. Because the farm is so broken up, it was hard to keep things consistent. So I decided to keep the mid area of the farm for a crop farm. I placed down my sprinklers to fit where they could, obviously leaving a little area for a Genemo hut to be placed later on. This small section to the west was a flower and bee house area. I had placed down 2 quality sprinklers and 20 bee houses. I wanted there to also be fencing, so fencing was placed along alongside the floors, so buildings had a place around the fences. Once I had a rough idea where I wanted these fences placed down, it was coop and barn time. This section to the north of the farm above the water seemed like enough space for the both of them. I had 3 sheds that I was able to place in total, 2 right next to my farmhouse and 1 right in front of it to the east. Then the obelisks were placed on the island far west of the farm, and I had placed them in the pattern so I wouldn't get confused between them again. Eventually I was able to then place down a Genemo hut, which was placed in the middle of my crop farm, which also blocks a scarecrow so the scarecrow wasn't kind of out of place. The very southwest section of my farm was left with 3 ponds, as that is all that I could fit here. Then, with some final touch-ups, it was show-off time. This is what the northeast side of my farm looked like, and I'll be going clockwise around the farm. Moving down this bridge to the south here is where my crops are, and you can see that there are some pumpkins being grown here. This was my crop farm essentially, just being this mid area. Something that I had not shown yet, but then decided last minute, was the south area section where I wanted to put down tap trees. I had them placed down with some cobblestone floor pieces to stop the seeds from appearing. I then have my flowers and bee house area where I've got some fairy rose grown here with my honey ready to be picked. I have some obelisks here to the west side of the farm next to some fancy trees for aesthetic purposes. I have the ponds ready to use on the southwest side here. Then as we head up back north, we have the coop and barn with my animals roaming. I also then placed a golden clock in this little section here, and I had also some free space to do a mini seating area right behind these 2 sheds, right next to the farm warp totem location. I also had this hiding spot behind my farmhouse for some lightning rods, of course. I'll have the link to this layout for the farm in the description below. And that is it. Thank you so much for joining today's video. As always, show some love for your girl and like this video if you've enjoyed. If you want to catch me live, I'm on twitch.tv/Fuzzerino. I will see you next time, guys. Take care.